Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Wicca and Witchcraft for Dummies by Diane Smith, narrated by Rebecca Mitchell. Limit of Liability, Disclaimer of Warranty. The contents of this work are intended to further general scientific research, understanding, and discussion only, and are not intended and should not be relied upon as recommending or promoting a specific method, diagnosis, or treatment by physicians for any particular patient. The publisher and the author make no representations or warranties with respect to the accuracy or completeness of the contents of this work, and specifically disclaim all warranties, including without limitation any implied warranties of fitness for a particular purpose. In view of ongoing research, equipment modifications, changes in governmental regulations, and the constant flow of information relating to the use of medicines, equipment, and devices, the reader is urged to review and evaluate the information provided in the package insert, or instructions for each medicine, equipment, or device, among other things, any changes in the instructions or indication of usage, and for added warnings and precautions. Readers should consult with a specialist where appropriate. The fact that an organization or website is referred to in this work as a citation and/or a potential source of further information does not mean that the author or the publisher endorses the information that organization or website may provide or recommendations it may make. Further, readers should be aware that Internet websites listed in this work may have changed or disappeared between when this work was written and when it is read. No warranty may be created or extended by any promotional statements for this work. Neither the publisher nor the author shall be liable for any damages arising herefrom. Introduction. Thank you for choosing this book. I hope it meets your need for reliable information. I didn't write the book in an effort to convert anyone, but rather to dispel false stereotypes and to share the facts about the real Wicca and witchcraft. First and foremost, Wicca is a spiritual path of personal discovery and experience of the divine. From deity, Wiccans receive wisdom, strength, solace, and surprising synchronicities. The way that Wiccans perceive or experience deity is unique to each individual. But for most, seeking relationship or union with the divine is the heart of Wicca. Nature flows from deity. Wiccan ritual and celebration are timed to the rhythms and the cycles of the natural world, especially the Earth's journey around the sun and the moon's passage around the Earth. The divine energy and the web of life are what real Wicca and witchcraft are all about. About this book. This book is my attempt to provide a general reference about Wicca and witchcraft. Unfortunately, such a book is impossible to write. Here's the problem. No author, including me, can write a book and claim that it definitively represents all of Wicca, because Wicca is a spiritual path of personal discovery and communication with deity. Each Wiccan decides what to believe and how to practice it. Wicca doesn't have a doctrine or holy book that Wiccans must follow. Wicca doesn't have leaders who require that people worship or live a certain way. No central authority or hierarchy of clergy decides who is and is not a legitimate Wiccan. Wiccans differ wildly in their personal beliefs and practices. Most Wiccans happily respect each other's opinions and follow their own hearts. In this book, I try to thoroughly explain the core beliefs, ethics, and practices that nearly all Wiccans accept. For more controversial issues, I try to offer an inclusive look across Wicca, including many examples of different Wiccans' ideas and opinions. Of course, no one really knows what the majority of Wiccans believe and how they practice. No central organization collects such records, but I do my best to describe the predominant beliefs and practices. Obviously, I can't include every single Wiccan's opinion about every single spiritual issue, and I had to make choices. The book undoubtedly contains some of my personal biases, but I made every effort to be fair and inclusive and provide an accurate reflection of Wicca today. You don't have to read this book from cover to back. You are free to skip around and read about the subjects that interest you. One bit of advice. Don't jump in and try to perform ritual, or especially to work magic, without first reading about Wiccan beliefs and ethics. Your practice will be more fulfilling, effective, and ethical if you understand Wiccan principles. Conventions used in this book. Choosing the language to use in this book was a nightmare. Wiccans have no doctrine, and they are free to develop their own beliefs. They also define terms any way they darn well please. Many of the words or phrases commonly used in Wicca don't have clear, standard meanings. Two people may use the same term with totally different ideas in mind. This section explains the definitions that I finally settled on. However, if you intend to study further, you need to know that the definitions of some terms are inconsistent throughout the Wiccan community. Defining the divine. In this book, I use the words deity, divinity, and the divine. I know that these words are generic and vague, and I use them intentionally, although some Wiccans may find them aggravating. Nearly all Wiccans believe in some form of a creative being. However, they have different ideas about the nature of the divine. Deity may be the goddess and the god in perfect duality. She may be the primal great goddess that is the source of all life. The divine may be the higher self, or a symbol emerging from the unconscious mind. Some Wiccans believe that deity takes many forms, or has many aspects. I deliberately use vague words because I don't want to be disrespectful and assume that everyone perceives deity in the same way. One alternative is to use goddesses and/or gods. That construction is far too unwieldy in the text, and even that awkward phrase discounts people who believe in a primal source or creative being without sex or gender. I apologize to all of those who think that I am dishonoring the goddess, the goddesses, God, gods, the all, the one, the triple goddess, Earth Mother, Source, Supreme Being, the Ancient Ones. Defining paganism, witchcraft, and Wicca. Every time I thought I had acceptable working definitions for paganism, pagan, witchcraft, and Wicca, Wiccan, further research made me change my mind. No one agrees on the use of these terms. The following sections describe their definitions for the purpose of this book. Pagan originally meant peasant or country dweller. Pagan was a term of derision, sort of like the word hick today. Heathen originally meant a person who lived in the heaths, open wasteland covered in heather, low shrubs, and so on. Paganism today is a collective or umbrella term that encompasses any of the pre-Christian religions and cultures. It usually refers to a nature religion that defines deity as immanent. Immanence means that the divine energy is manifest in nature. Deity is right here, right now, and is all present in the world. Pagan also refers to indigenous or tribal religions and cultures. Historically, pagans and heathens were the rural folk who were the last to be converted to Christianity. A pagan is someone who practices and/or holds the beliefs of paganism. Neo-paganism is a continuation, revival, or recreation of an old pagan religion. A neo-pagan is someone who follows a new version of old paganism. Wicca, for the purposes of this book, is a continuation, a revival, or a recreation of pre-Christian, primarily European, nature religion or spirituality. Wicca is a type or sect of witchcraft. Although Wicca has its roots in ancient spirituality, the modern Wiccan revival began in the 1950s. Most Wiccans agree with one of the following definitions. Wicca is a continuation of a very old religion that has been passed down through families and groups since ancient times. Wicca is a return to or revival of an old, even ancient form of religion. Because not a great deal is known about the original beliefs and practices, contemporary Wiccans must add on to the old tradition. Wicca is a new form of spirituality that recreates some very old practices and ideas. The modern form of Wicca began in the 1950s. Put very simply, Wiccans generally accept two basic principles. A belief in an immanent deity. A Wiccan's main spiritual goal is to grow in his or her relationship with divinity. Almost all Wiccans believe in a creative being. Many, but not all, Wiccans honor deity in both the male and female aspects, the goddess and the god. Most Wiccans believe that the divine is immanent in the world, meaning that deity is right here, right now, and is all present in the world. People come from and are a part of the divine energy, and deity is within everyone. A belief in interconnection. All of life, everything that exists, comes from and is a part of the divine energy, so everything is interconnected. All of existence is an unbroken web or circle of energy. Nature is a manifestation of the deity. Wiccan spiritual practice is based on the cycles of nature. A Wiccan, for the purposes of this book, is someone who practices and/or holds the beliefs of Wicca. Wicca is a type or sect of witchcraft, and Wiccans are a type of witch. Note, not all Wiccans consider themselves to be witches. Some consider Wicca to be a separate system of beliefs and practices, different from all forms of traditional witchcraft. Some Wiccans reject the witch label simply because it has such a negative and evil connotation in the culture. They have abandoned the word, believing that Wiccans can never undo the centuries of propaganda and bad press that witches have endured. Witchcraft, for the purposes of this book, is an umbrella or collective term for the beliefs and practices of all witches and Wiccans throughout history, beginning in ancient times, primarily in Europe. Witchcraft is a nature religion or spirituality. The term refers to both the spiritual practice, the honoring or worshiping of deity, and the magical practice, healing, herbalism, midwifery, spellcasting, divination, and so on. I often use the word witchcraft in reference to history because that is the word used in the documentation, for example, during the medieval and Renaissance witch trials. The word witchcraft has many different meanings and contexts. The following are some of the sometimes contradictory definitions and usages for the word witchcraft. Wicca refers to the spirituality, the relationship with or worship of deity. Witchcraft refers to the magical practice, for example, spellcasting, healing, divination, and so on. This is a very popular definition, and you may encounter it often. Witchcraft and Wicca are synonyms and are interchangeable. Witchcraft is an umbrella or collective term for the beliefs and practices of all witches and Wiccans. Wicca is a sect or a specific form of witchcraft. Witchcraft encompasses all the practices of Wicca, including rituals for worship and for magic. Generally, Wiccans create sacred space by casting a circle. Within that circle, they worship or honor deity, and they also work magic. Some Wiccans consider everything that happens in that sacred space to be witchcraft. For them, witchcraft is spiritual ritual and magical art. Wicca is the modern-day revival religion, and witchcraft is the old pre-Christian nature religion of Europe. Outside of Wicca and witchcraft, there are a seemingly endless number of stereotypical and outlandishly inaccurate definitions for witch and witchcraft, even within credible sources, such as dictionaries. These definitions often characterize witches and witchcraft as evil or wicked, and associate them with Satanism. A witch, for the purposes of this book, is someone who practices and/or holds the beliefs of witchcraft. Many witches follow traditions that were in existence before or are otherwise separate from the traditions born during the Wiccan revival of the 1950s. The followers of these traditions commonly are called traditional witches or sometimes hedge witches. Many traditional witches focus on the oral teachings, literature, history, and folklore of a specific culture, for example, Celtic, and many traditional witches have ancestry in their chosen tradition. Some witches are from family, hereditary backgrounds in witchcraft. Some groups of witches have well-defined spiritual beliefs, and others focus almost solely on practice, folk magic, healing, midwifery, and so on. Note, not all witches are Wiccan. Most traditional witches don't consider themselves to be Wiccan at all. What you're not to read. Wicca encourages independence and self-direction. If you don't want to work practical magic, you don't ever have to explore that topic. If you don't feel comfortable using divination, such as tarot cards, skip that chapter. If you aren't interested in dreams, pass up that information. However, before you engage in any practice, such as magic or trance, make sure that you read about the beliefs, ethics, and warnings that pertain to the practice. Foolish assumptions. I don't assume that the readers of this book are now or ever want to be Wiccan. My only assumption is that you want factual, reliable information about Wicca and witchcraft, free of false stereotypes and sensationalism. This book is not an effort to bring people into Wicca. Proselytizing, trying to convert others, violates Wiccan ethics. Wiccans assume that those who are meant to follow the Wiccan path will find it on their own. In some of the more personal portions of the book, and especially in the how-to sections, I use the word you. I use that word only to simplify the text. The use of the collective you doesn't mean that I want to encourage or pressure you to engage in any Wiccan activity. If you do intend to pursue a deeper exploration of Wicca, or you're moving toward making a commitment, I hope this book helps you on your journey. I don't want to promote the stereotype that Wicca is scary, spooky, and dangerous. Wicca is a means for self-development and positive change. But please keep in mind that certain Wiccan practices may be intense, for example, ritual, magic, and trance work. If you experience emotional or mental problems of any kind, please seek competent and compassionate treatment before engaging in any type of rigorous spiritual or magical work. How this book is organized. This book is divided into parts devoted to the beliefs, the everyday lives, the spiritual journey, the ritual and worship, and the magical practices of Wiccans. Part 1. Seeing the world through Wiccan eyes. What Wiccans believe. Many people think that Wicca is about casting love spells or using magic to come up with the winning lottery numbers. However, Wicca is a spiritual path, and the majority of Wiccans have thoughtfully developed and deeply held belief systems. Part 1 offers a description of the very different ideas about the nature of deity. Read this part to explore the ideas and the elegance of Wiccan belief. Part 2. Looking at the past, present, and future. How Wiccans live. From the caves to the internet, Part 2 looks at Wiccan lives. Explore mysteries of Wicca's past, realities of the present, and hopes for the future. Part 3. Coming Home. How Wiccans become Wiccans. Part 3 is about the spiritual journey of Wiccans. How does one find and follow the Wiccan path? This part is about the spiritual journey of Wiccans, from the decision about whether to dedicate oneself to Wicca to the options for Wiccan practice, alone or in a group, an established tradition of practice or an individual path. Find out how Wiccans find their way home. Part 4. Following the Sun and the Moon. How Wiccans worship. Part 4 describes how Wiccans develop and nurture their relationship to deity. It's dedicated to the ritual and liturgy of Wicca. Here you can discover the Wiccan holy days, holidays, and explore the way that Wiccans celebrate the cycles and rhythms of the earth. Part 5. Practicing the craft. What Wiccans do. Part 5 is optional. It describes practices that are not mandatory, but are a part of most Wiccans' lives, including spellcasting, using candles, stones, herbs, and charms, reading tarot cards and other forms of divination, as well as trance and dream work. The part also shows you how to write down your experiences in a traditional Book of Shadows. Part 6. The Part of Tens. Part 6 offers the 10 habits of effective Wiccans, 10 principles that make up the unofficial Wiccan code of conduct, and 10 warning signs of a scam or inappropriate behavior in Wicca, or any other group. Appendixes. The Wicca FAQ appendix conveniently contains answers to the most frequently asked questions about Wicca in one handy location. I hope it helps readers separate the truth from the propaganda about Wicca and witchcraft. A second appendix lists the magical properties of various herbs and stones. Icons used in this book. Like all For Dummies books, this one includes helpful icons sprinkled throughout the text. The following interprets the icons used in this book. Craft Evolution. This icon marks text that clues you into the history of the craft. Text appearing with this icon explains major events in history or gives you the background information about a specific belief or practice. It usually signifies history that occurred before the modern Wiccan revival of the 1950s. Remember. The Remember icon flags key concepts. I use this icon to point out information that is critical to a basic understanding of Wicca, information that you need to know so that the rest of Wicca makes sense. Tip. The tip icon signifies helpful information that makes Wiccan belief or practice more fulfilling, effective, or successful. Sometimes the icon marks an idea that makes the Wiccan path a little easier to travel. This icon gives you a heads up about an effective method or an acceptable course of action, or it points out a common challenge or pitfall of Wiccan life. Warning. This icon is important. It often flags something that can be physically or psychologically dangerous. I also use this icon to point out potential violations of Wiccan ethics. For example, activity that can draw harmful energy to you. Occasionally, I use this icon to alert you to some aspect of Wicca's unofficial code of conduct, so you don't commit a breach of protocol that can seriously offend the Wiccan community. Sometimes it denotes an area of conflict or disagreement within the craft, or a major stereotype or myth held by non-Wiccans that people should avoid repeating. Where to go from here? If you decide to pursue a deeper exploration of Wicca, or you're moving toward making a commitment, remember that you are free to believe and practice as you see fit. Don't feel obligated to follow the instructions found in this book, or any other book or website. I encourage you to read and train, but think of your study sources as guides, not Bibles. Your own revelations from deity are just as valid as someone else's. Follow your own heart. Part 1. Seeing the World Through Wiccan Eyes. What Wiccans Believe. In this part, when people are new to Wicca, they often want to jump into the practice of magic. Many are hoping to find a quick fix cure-all for their lives, a spell to find love or to pay off their credit cards. Before attempting to practice Wicca, or before passing judgment on it, explore and understand the beliefs that underlie Wiccan practice. Wicca is based on personal discovery and direct experience of deity, as well as reverence for nature and the web of life. This part reveals the foundation of the Wiccan path. Chapter 1. Believing that everything's connected. In this chapter, discovering the key to Wicca. Blending Wicca and science. Finding the divine, right here, right now. Many people discover Wicca in bits and pieces. Perhaps Wiccan ritual empowers them, or the Wiccan reverence for the rhythms and cycles of nature satisfies them, or magic fascinates them. However, in order to fully understand and find meaning in Wicca, a person needs to grasp the big picture. The Wiccan worldview. A few core ideas underlie all of Wicca, and if you understand these basic concepts about the world and the divine, then Wiccan beliefs and practices make sense. This chapter provides the background to understand Wicca as a full-fledged spirituality and a specific way of experiencing and interpreting the world. Swimming in a divine sea of energy. You are about to discover one principle that is the key to much of Wiccan belief. Ready? Here it is. Everything is connected. Everything that exists is part of an unbroken circle of vibrating energy. You may find it helpful to picture reality as a web of energy, like a spider's web, or as an energy grid, like an electrical grid. Some people refer to this idea as the web of life, or nature's web. Wiccans perceive deity in vastly different ways. See Chapter 2. However, most believe in a creative being that is the source or creator of the web of life. Most Wiccans believe that deity is immanent, is right here, right now, and all present in the world, and is also manifest in nature, is evident and easily perceived. Most believe that the web of life, everything that exists, flows or unfolds from deity. The divine is the source of all life. Some Wiccans even believe that the entire cosmos is the living body of deity. The belief in deity is a matter of faith. No one can prove that the cosmos has a divine source. However, reality is one big, connected, infinite network. Ask any Wiccan or any scientist. Finding kinship in the cosmos. The Wiccan view of an interconnected world isn't just a mystical, spiritual notion. Modern science, especially cutting-edge ideas in quantum physics, supports the idea of life's interconnection and interdependence. The following are some of the leading theories that blend perfectly with Wiccan belief. Going quantum. Matter versus energy. People see the physical world as a bunch of independent and stable objects, but that's not exactly the truth. Modern science reveals that matter and energy are not separate. Energy flows in waves that form patterns. What you see as a separate object, a dog, a bird, or a tree, is really just a pocket of reality where the energy is more dense, according to quantum physics. Quantum physics. Physical matter is made up of molecules and atoms, which are made up of smaller components called subatomic particles. In quantum physics, particles of matter and waves of energy are the same thing. A subatomic particle isn't a little dot of matter that scientists can hold still and examine. It's more like a little dancing point of energy. These particles can't be understood as separate units. Scientists can describe subatomic particles only by talking about how they act with one another. The only way to meaningfully describe these particles is to explain the way that they interconnect. Wicca meets quantum physics. Quantum physics clearly demonstrates the Wiccan belief that all reality is an integrated web of energy. Even at the subatomic level, life is interconnected. Tuning up the strings and dancing with the universe. The preceding section describes subatomic particles as dancing points of energy. String theory suggests that they may not even be points, but strings. String theory is bold and beautiful, but complicated. Read on to find out more, but if you start to feel a migraine coming on, take a break and watch a Gilligan's Island rerun. It's always satisfying to watch the professor build complicated stuff out of coconuts. String theory. A subatomic particle is not point-like, but is made of a tiny loop. Like a super-thin rubber band, each particle contains a vibrating, dancing string. Like a guitar string, each tiny string can vibrate. Every string is identical. The only difference is the way that it vibrates. Each string has a different vibration, like each guitar string creates a different musical note. The movements of the string, the note it creates, determine the kind of particle it will be. These itty-bitty vibrating strings make up everything in the universe. all physical matter and all forces, such as gravity, these strings vibrate throughout space.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?